Welcome to OGI, The Only Good Indian, our first show of the TPM 25-26 season. I've been asked to give you a little bit of background about why this show and how it sort of came about. So I can start by saying I started a conversation with Jiv and Tom of Pandemic Theatre, who created this show, years ago, and decided that it would be a really interesting conversation to have in this community, but that we really couldn't go forward unless we had people in this community who really wanted to be part of that conversation, because the piece is incredibly personal and a little bit provocative, and so we wanted to make sure we found some folks who were game to go on that journey with us. And I'm delighted to say that Debbie Patterson and Hazel Venzon and Eric Plamondon answered the call and will be performing for you in just a little while.
I'm Parasram. I'm one of the co-leads of Pandemic Theatre and one of the co-creators of the project OGI, or The Only Good Indian, with Tom Arthur Davis.
Hi, I'm Tom Arthur Davis. I'm a co-creator of OGI with Jiv and co-founder of Pandemic Theatre with Jiv.
Hi, my name is Hazel Venzon, and I am here on Treaty 1 territory. I'm thrilled to be part of Theatre Projects Manitoba's 25-26 season, and I'll be working on an incredible piece with Pandemic Theatre called The Only Good Indian.
Hi, I'm Plamondon. I'm an artist that has been cultivating and been cultivated in Winnipeg. I am both an actor and a writer, and I am thrilled to be a part of The Only Good Indian version, Le Bon Petit Sauvage.
Hi, my name is Debbie Patterson. I'm one of the performers working on The Only Good Indian.
So when Tom and Jiv and I were discussing who we might approach, I was thinking about folks in this community who have a grounding of work where they create their own work, folks who are comfortable and practiced in making work from their unique perspective of their identity, and people who are beloved in this community and would be a great ambassador to the conversation that this show invites you to be a part of.
So I'm familiar with this piece because I saw Jiv perform it in Toronto at Summerworks or the Fringe. I can't remember which, but it was at Factory Theatre, and it was super interesting. And I learned a lot, and I was fascinated by the project. And so then when Susie approached me about being part of it, I already had sort of a working knowledge of what this piece was about. But I wasn't aware at that time that it was something that was being rewritten by other performers. And so that was really interesting to me. And reading other performers' sort of interpretation of, how they responded to the writing prompts and what they chose to talk about was fascinating for me. All of that was inspiring and made me want to work on it.
So it was clear right away in reading the different versions of this piece that there is something to it, something very compelling. But for me, it became also very obvious right away that this was not going to work, because the piece is clearly written for someone who's not Indigenous to the territory that they live on. And as a citizen of the Red River Métis Nation, the reaction was a bit, I can't do this. I shouldn't do this. It's not meant for me. But then that little nugget of, well, why was I invited though? Because that piece of my identity is known and is understood. And in talking to Susie and that sort of desire of, if that voice or that narrative from an Indigenous perspective isn't part of the project, what does that say? But then those multiple voices of there isn't a homogenous Indigenous perspective. Just on this territory alone, there's many nations and many different realities. So then there's the question, am I the one who's best suited for this? But that I think was quickly dispelled in meeting the team and going, oh, I feel supported. So let's go down the road. Let's trust the process. That's the point of this project, is that we become comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it's also what we're going to ask the audience. But if you do so with care and if you do so with intent, then people will feel compelled to be a part of it. And here I am, compelled to be a part of it.
Susie saw a show of mine called Everything Has Disappeared. It was a piece that I made with Mammalian Diving Reflex out of Toronto, and just thought that I was a type of artist that could elaborate on their own self and use personal material inside the format of a conventional play. And it's also been like a type of my my process and form as a maker of theater. She just thought, you might be a really good fit. So it's kind of like this whole process has been a just really, really generous invitation to participate in something that's personal and something that's like a long evolutionary process. I'm happy to follow their lead. They've done this show, in Toronto before with other writers and artists. And so I was really fascinated about their process too. It's a really thoughtful process and yet exciting to know how everyone else's work will be somewhat similar and have like the same streams and ribbons throughout our own works, and how we won't, how different our shows will be from one another.
Because the play deals with questions of identity and occupation and colonialism and decolonialism, it felt like it was particularly potent in this city, where we have a lot of intersecting communities and a lot of diaspora communities, as well as a lot of First Nation communities. So to be able to have a conversation about what does it mean to be here and what does it mean to be from somewhere else or to be othered, whether you're from here or not, and where are those lines and who's in and who's out, all felt like a really relevant conversation for here and something that TPM audiences would be eager and willing to engage with. The Only Good Indian is sort of presented in two parts. So the performer performs their piece, and then Act 2, as we're calling it, is a long-form conversation around a table with members of the audience. Anyone is welcome to participate and sub in and out. And this is not a talkback or a Q&A with the artists. This is a chance for you to speak to each other about the experiences you just had, unpack your point of view on the themes, and share anything that's burning on your heart to share.
For me, it's mainly like participation in that long table discussion, which some people will want to, some people will not. The design of that process is such that I think it's inviting for both. It's hard to say. I'm hoping that people are actively engaged in conversation.
I hope they feel more comfortable inside their own skin. I hope they, accept their own weaknesses and vulnerabilities as beautiful parts of who they are and not as shameful things that they have to hide.
People make a choice to go. People choose to be in the room. So there's always that, where are all the hurdles that existed before somebody made the effort to show up in the room? There will be moments of theater. There's no doubt about it. But there's also some very true moments of truth that will be presented. And truth can be awkward, but truth can also be theatrical. And there's no doubt that the reason we say truth and reconciliation, but that truth comes first, is that truth has to come first. So I do hope there's a moment during or afterwards, I don't know if it's immediately afterwards, that there is a sense of reconciliation with oneself, but also with the other.
It's a very funny thing. I wonder about what audiences take away all the time. Audiences might see me, hopefully, in a different dimension of myself. I think thematically, what we're touching on are topics to discuss deeper and to also celebrate ourselves as a collection of people who have multi-dimensions and many layers of themselves. I hope people will walk away feeling reflective of their role in colonization as a settler. These questions that we're writing or I'm answering right now are certainly reflecting on my history as a settler too, and my role. Such a good thing to think about, and I hope collectively we're going to reflect on that and also hopefully learn more about themselves through me, through what I share. I think it's gonna really cause a lot of reflection.
I'll say this. It is maybe my Portage Place treaty that I offer to the Winnipeg community.
Reflective, light, and dangerous.
Funnier than it looks.
Yeah, it's absurdly humorous.
It's certainly like a night where you're gonna like talk to people and you're gonna chat,
Yeah, and provocative, I guess is one of the words, but like not in the like, oh, this is like we're gonna do things that are controversial in front of you, and like I don't know, I guess we are putting a bomb on ourselves, but in the sense that it's like we want to provoke you to have a conversation with someone who you might not have ever had a conversation with.
OGI features original performances by Jivesh Parasram, Tom Arthur Davis, Debbie Patterson, Hazel Venzon, and Eric Plamondon, and runs at the Colin Jackson Studio Theatre on the 3rd floor of Portage Place at PTE from September 18th to 28th. Tickets are on sale now, and you can get them at theatreprojectsmanitoba.ca or by calling our box office at 204-989-2400.